You read that title right. I really am doing this. I am going to rank every Henry Stickmin fan game ever. Why? Well, because I think it's funny. It should be pretty obvious who I'm basing this video off of, so this should be familiar territory to you, but I will be playing every Henry Stickmin fan game. Just note that a lot of them are on Scratch. There are some rules that I should probably lay out so I don't get a million comments asking me where's this fan game, where's that fan game, or just ask if they want to voice Charles in cracking the safe. First rule, the game has to be finished or else it wouldn't be fair to rank it, because, well yeah, that should be pretty obvious. 2, the game must be considered popular or iconic in my eyes. And 3, they still have to be up on the platform submitted by the author for the sake of privacy. One other thing I would like to note is please don't take my opinion seriously. I am not like a master in critic stuff. I'm just doing this because 1, it's funny, like I said before, and 2, you know, I was just kind of bored. But you can have your own opinions and just don't follow my say without playing them yourselves. And all of the games are going to be linked in the description, including the ones outside of Scratch. But without further ado, let's dive into ranking almost every Henry Stickmin fan game ever. This is the first Henry Stickmin fan game on Scratch that isn't completely broken. A lot of things are broken with it, but it's not to the point where it's bad and I can still follow along. Here we are a stick figure invading a military base that's located in the Arctic. Your goal is to break in and steal the military intelligence, as they described it. It has some sort of charm to it that makes it likable, but one issue that I really have with this game, and to be quite frankly, a lot of the Scratch games, is that it's just how slowly they progress. I'm not sure if that's just my computer's fault or not, but it feels like scenes go by way too slow. However, I was still able to follow the plot, and I thought the blackmail ending was pretty funny, I will be honest. One thing that I think is really funny is you can delete System 32. One other thing that's like very interesting, but also felt it was kind of useless, but I can kind of understand it's on Scratch, is that the bust-in and sneak-in routes are basically the same endings, so there's only like 2 to 3 endings in the actual game. And I will let it pass because this was in 2018, and I feel as if though they're not making this as like a giant thing, and this was before the Henry Stickmin collection, this was before all of the maps and bios are like implemented and put in. So I can just understand this being as just like a little fan game to Henry Stickmin that was based on stealing the diamond. So with that, I think it's pretty good, but it does have a lot of flaws, especially since it was in 2018. This was before 2.0 or before 3.0 Scratch. So yippee, I did it. First game out of like 15. I don't remember the number. As far as I know, this is the first fan game that released after the collection, and it's made by my good friend Bioplant, so I'll try not to be biased. And by not being biased, I'm gonna start out by saying that the options take a long time to load. And when you retry, they don't immediately pop up like they do in the collection. One other small issue that I have, this is just me being an artist, but the colors, they're just kind of bland. The desert looks piss yellow and the palette is very messy. However, I really like Henry's expressions, and especially at its time for Bio, it really feels like he was making this as a little letter to the Henry Stickmin series and was having fun making it. I also like the nod to breaking the bank in the ramp option. It just feels like he was making this for fun. Overall, it was a pretty good fan game that you could play in 5 minutes. However, it's just brought down by it being outdated compared to Bioplant's work now, and it's just not really that much of a story. Like, I understand some games can't have stories, but like the thing that makes Henry Stickmin Henry Stickmin is it's supposed to progress in a way. And there's only one ending, but then again, it's crossing the pit. I can't really like nitpick it too much. So yeah, crossing the pit. Breaking the bank devolved. It's breaking the bank but Devolved. What can I say? This is a very funny recreation of Breaking the Bank, but purposely bad. It makes it feel more personal, which is why I like it a lot. I know I have little to say about this one because I have more to say when escaping the prison is brought up, so be prepared for that. However, I will not fail to mention how they use the same ass sound where it's like you know what I mean. Oh boy. Oh boy. I'll start out with the compliments because it just feels mean to jump right into this one. When Henry appears out of nowhere, I unironically thought it was funny because of how played completely straight it was. That was really it. I thought the options were good sometimes, but most of them felt too out of pocket, even for Henry Stickmin. For example, Henry uses a guitar to make the cashier go away so he can get the cash. And then there's an option where Henry tries to ask her out. Unfortunately, this one also feels very slow, but I might as well just accept it at this point. Also, I don't like saying this, but it's the only way to describe it, but this screams Scratch, especially the animation, which is mostly tweens. But I thought there was a bit of charm with it. I never expected it to be a masterpiece, but in the end, I still followed the story and played through the endings, so... There is one thing that I failed to mention, and that there's some really outdated memes, and this was in 2020, I'm talking about like 2016 memes. Like for example, they play Careless Whisperer, they play Kevin MacLeod music, which, I mean, I'll let that pass, but it just feels kind of cringe. Surviving the Snowstorm might be the first fan game, in no offense, to feel like a complete Henry Stickmin fan game on Scratch. A lot of it is still pretty good, despite Bioplant in his developer commentary stating how he started to run out of ideas 3 options in. He didn't mention it in the video, but Henry looks like he's wearing a top hat in this one. Unintentional or not, I really like that. There's also a nod to all of the 11-year-olds who asked 7 different creators to voice Charles, so this game is already peak. Another thing is the teleporter option is actually really creative, and it felt like something Puff would actually do. The art also holds up pretty well for it being Bioplant's second Henry fan game. This game overall really feels like a start of an era of what can be accomplished on Scratch, and the views on his channel shows it. I haven't seen this one in a while, and it holds up pretty damn good, not gonna lie. One thing to note is how good the animation is for being on Scratch. It's very stylized actually, especially in this scene. And you know how much I like stylized animation. I just like the concept about a fan game that's centered around Ellie and her backstory, how she ended up to the wall. Also, there's actual voice acting in this fan game, and it's not all that bad. This fan game is also the first to have QuickTime events, which helps it stand out more. Overall, this was a really good fan game that felt like they enjoyed making it a ton. It might not be polished or anything like too out of the ordinary, but it's still good for a fan game of a concept like this. Only thing I would recommend is to add subtitles. I almost forgot that this game existed until Danny told me, so I might as well play it. First thing I see is how old this fan game is. I could tell this is one of the first projects Danny has ever made, especially since some scenes are entirely traced. When I only saw pieces of this game, I thought it was only the 8 options. Turns out there was more than that, which surprised me when I was first playing it for this video. So that was pretty neat. But yeah, surviving the desert was flawed, but a good start to Danny's adventure, and especially the remaster, which was featured in the Stickmin Direct. In fact, just check out the Stickmin Direct if you haven't. It has a lot of good fan games that, like, a lot of them were cancelled. Yeah, moving on. When I first played this, I thought it was going to be related to the fake-out ending in Infiltrating the Airship. Then I read the notes and it made more sense. In this game, Henry Stickmin is a kid, and his first crime is to steal a teddy bear, since he doesn't have money. This one also has voice acting, which surprises me because he only says one line.
Hey! You have to pay for that, kid.
This game was also pretty short in retrospective, which doesn't affect the ranking, but it's worth noting. The helicopter option didn't make much sense until I read the fail text, so at least the game is consistent with its time frame. Overall, the concept is pretty good for a short fan game. and it feels like they had some fun making this. Just to note, this is the same guy who made Robbing the Supermarket, so it's nice to know that he had other people working on it, and it just was all overall good. Escaping the Prison Devolved. It's escaping the prison, but devolved. Honestly, I appreciate the dedication to dumbify every single Henry game up to infiltrating the airship. There's also a bit of dialogue in this that just makes it 10 times funnier. The green screen part actually made me giggle. I'm glad that Kedge made the right decision to make it bad, but not to the point of unplayability. And because of that, it has a very nice charm to it, and that's why it's up there so high, because of the hidden message of starting game development. Also, yes, I did mention Kedge. Kedge is working on this and Attacking the Tower. I would recommend seeing the trailer if you somehow haven't. The next game is something I actually made. I know you guys are saying, but Neon, why are you putting your game in the ranking? Good question.
Neon, I thought we were working on Late to Friday Night.
Oh, hi Anto. Can you do this random obscure game that you never played for me?
Okay. Hi, I'm known as Stuffy Ant, or, well, people just call me Anto because that's my actual name. Yeah, I'll be rating Neon's own fan game here, which is Cracking the Safe. Yeah, he made this quite a while ago. To be specific, 2021. Basically, very short and sweet little game. Cracking the Safe is a super short but kind of flawed game that is saved for some pretty decent art and general polish. I mean, it depends on what your definition of polish is, but I think it's polished, and especially polished for a Scratch game. Its shortcomings boil down to very bland and boring fails, with a funny, but not particularly sensical ending. If we're taking this game's quality for Neon standards nowadays, it's awful. Oh, it's absolutely terrible, but if we're, taking into consideration the time in which this game was released, it was actually quite good, despite still suffering from a super short playtime, only having 4 options. He's improved a lot as an artist, and this just kind of looks bad when compared to his new stuff. Honestly, I was just surprised at how decently the game held up, at least in the visuals. I'm not sure if the fails are particularly funny. They're very boring and bland, as I said earlier, but oh well. I give the game a solid 6.7 out of 10. Thank you for having me in the video, Neon.
This fan game has been worked on for 15 months, so it's not surprising for me to say that it's pretty good. This is a continuation of Top at Civil Warfare, the completing the mission ending, which is usually looked down upon, it seems. I don't think that makes this fan game awful, however. I really liked the loaded screen, but unfortunately it took years to load in all of the assets, and I'm not sure if that was intentional or not. There's also voice acting in this, and to be honest, it's probably the best acting out of all games here. They are so clean and not messed up that I was honestly fine with no subtitles. This game was also longer than I thought, which made it worthwhile. However, it was still pretty slow. It's kind of the curse with Scratch games like these, and there was actually 2 instances of drastic gameplay changes, like absolutely drastic. For another game genre, it would be fine, but I had to move from my mouse to my keyboard, and I was playing this game at 8 p.m, so I did not feel like moving, so it wasn't ideal to say the least. But I followed the story and went through the endings, and I really liked the game. It has a bunch of effort put into it by very creative people, and it feels like a good continuation of the completing the mission ending everyone dislikes. This is the only fan game on this list that isn't on Scratch, which probably goes to show how simple making a game on Scratch is. With Henry's Nightmare though, I really liked it. There was a bunch of mystery, and I like people's headcanons of certain characters in the Henry franchise that made it wholesome to say the least. Also, Thomas dies. Thomas, I don't really know how to say it. Thomas. I mostly love how Henry looks though. I like people's interpretations of drawing Henry and Henry Stickmin characters, and this one is no different. Overall, I really like this YouTube Markiplier-esque video format that fits well with Henry Stickmin as a whole. Best time to mention that I will show the final rankings after I talk about all the fan games. But yeah, that's Henry's Nightmare. Keep going. This is really good. I was looking forward to replaying this one. It's really that good. I like the concept of making separate fan games into one collection instead of making one huge fan game. There's not even that much to say due to how decent it is. Basically, Henry survives a sea, climbs a cliff, and steals a gem. Some of the options are very creative and actually funny. It really does feel a lot like something Puff would do for Henry Stickmin, and I appreciate that a lot. The presentation and amount of polish that went into this game just makes it even better, in my opinion. I would recommend playing it, and the link is in the description if you want to. I'll also try not to be biased with this one because I did some art for it. Overall, this game is very silly.
Henry Stickmin sucks!
Okay, that was weird. Sometimes I like games that aren't serious and can be laid back once in a while, and the downgrade option proves it. It does have a gameplay change, so it's very similar to Retaking the Airship, but it's fine. It's not the most difficult thing ever. But yeah, I like most of the options, and it feels the most like a Henry fan game done right. Well, I did it. Obviously, it wasn't every Henry Stickmin fan game, and if I miss any, make sure you comment down below, and I might make a part 2 when my mental health restores. But thank you for watching if you made it all the way through. I appreciate you taking your time to watch this very video. Also, if you're watching this, Mark, thank you. I watch your videos when working on my project, so you helped me not work in dead silence.